Okay, we're going to continue on in our Father's Word today. This is 1 Kings 10, verse 11. Also the ships of Hiram, the king of Tyre, which brought gold from Ophir, brought great quantities of almug wood and precious stones from Ophir. And the king made steps of the almug wood for the house of the Lord, and for the king's house, and also harps and stringed instruments for singers. There never again came much such almug wood, nor has the like been seen to this day. Now King Solomon gave the queen of Sheba all she desired, whatever she asked, besides what Solomon had given her according to the royal generosity. So she turned and went to her own country, she and her servants. The weight of the gold that came to Solomon yearly was 666 talents of gold. Besides that, from the traveling merchants, from the income of the traders, from all the kings of Arabia, and from the governors of the country. And King Solomon made 200 large shields of hammered gold. 600 shekels of gold went into each shield. He also made 300 shields of hammered gold. 3 minas of gold went into each shield. The king put them in the house of the forest of Lebanon. Moreover, the king made a great throne of ivory and overlaid it with pure gold. The throne had 6 steps, and the top of the throne was round at the back, and there were armrests on either side of the place of the seat, and 2 lions stood besides the armrest. 12 lions stood there, one on each side of the 6 steps. Nothing like this had been made for any other kingdom. All King Solomon's drinking vessels were gold, and all the vessels of the house of the forest of Lebanon were pure gold. Not one was silver, for this was accounted as nothing in the days of Solomon. For the king had merchant ships at sea with the fleet of Hiram. Once every 3 years, the merchant ships came bringing gold, silver, ivory, apes, and monkeys. So King Solomon surpassed all the kings of the earth in riches and in wisdom. Now all the earth sought the presence of Solomon to hear his wisdom, which God had put in his heart. Each man brought his present, articles of silver and gold, garments, armor, spices, horses, and mules, at a set rate, year by year. And Solomon gathered chariots and horsemen. He had 1,400 chariots and 12,000 horsemen, whom he stationed in the chariot cities, and with the king at Jerusalem. The king made silver as common in Jerusalem as stones. And he made cedar trees as abundant as the sycamores which are in the lowland. Also Solomon had horses imported from Egypt and Cuba. The king's merchants brought them in Cuba at the current price. Now a chariot that was imported from Egypt cost 600 shekels of silver, and a horse 150. Thus, through their agents, they exported them to all the kings of the Hittites and the kings of Syria. Now this is 1 Kings chapter 11. But King Solomon loved many foreign women, as well as the daughter of the Pharaoh, women of the Moabites, the Amorites, the Edomites, the Sidonians, and the Hittites, from the nations of whom the Lord had said to the children of Israel, "You shall not intermarry with them, nor they with you. Surely they will turn you away from the hearts after their gods. Solomon clung to these in love, and he had 700 wives, princesses, and 300 concubines. Now the concubine was the same as a wife, that just the wives, their children were in line to be the king, the boys were, and the concubines, their children couldn't be the king of Israel. And his wives turned away his heart. For it was so, when Solomon was old, that his wives turned his heart after other gods. He built shrines on the Mount of Olives, right across from Solomon's temple. Right there at the Holy of Holies, where God's Ark of the Covenant was located. Yeah, Solomon did that. And his heart was not loyal to the Lord his God, as was the heart of his father David. David never turned his back on God. For Solomon went after Ashtaroth, the goddess of the Sidonians, Ishtar, pagan sex and fertility goddess. Got the big top, big bottom, and a big red ruby in her belly button. And after the Milcom, the abomination of the Amorites, Solomon did evil in the sight of the Lord, and did not fully follow the Lord, as did his father David. Then Solomon built a high place for Chemosh, the abomination of Moab. They threw God's little children into Chemosh's altar fire, and then had sex orgies in the groves. That's how they worshiped Chemosh and Dagon, on the hill that is east of Jerusalem. And for Molech, the abomination of the people of Ammon. And he did likewise for all his foreign wives, who burned incense and sacrificed to their gods. So the Lord became angry with Solomon, because his heart had turned from the Lord God of Israel, who had appeared to him twice, and had commanded him concerning this thing, that he should not go after other gods. But he did not keep what the Lord had commanded. Therefore the Lord said to Solomon, because you have done this, and have not kept my covenant and my statutes, which I commanded you, I will surely tear the kingdom away from you, and give it to your servant. Nevertheless, I will not do it in your days. For the sake of your father David, I will tear it out of the hand of your son. However, I will not tear away the whole kingdom. I will give one tribe to your son for the sake of my servant David, and for the sake of Jerusalem, which I have chosen. Now the Lord raised up an adversary against Solomon, Hadad, the Edomite. He was a descendant of the king in Edom. For it happened, when David was in Edom, and Joab, the commander of the army, had gone up to bury the slain, after he killed every male in Edom, because for 6 months Joab remained there with all Israel, until he had cut down every male in Edom. Then Hadad fled to go to Egypt, he and certain Edomites of his father's servants with him. Hadad was still a little child. Then they arose from Medan and came to Paran. And they took men with them from Paran and came to Egypt, to Pharaoh, king of Egypt, who gave him a house, apportioned food for him, and gave him land. And Hadad found great favor in the sight of Pharaoh, so that he gave him as wife the sister of his own wife, that is, the sister of the queen Thapenses. Then the sister of Thapenses bore him Genubath, his